Sideline Sedo here, back again with another video. This time we're going to be looking at the match week 7 results, giving you a recap, a review of all the fixtures, the narratives coming out of said fixtures. And before we continue, make sure to comment down below. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. I want to hear what you guys have to say about these fixtures and all these results. Let's get into it. Starting with Aston Villa versus Brighton, I was live for this fixture. Ollie Watkins hat trick, Purvis Estupiñán own goal, Jacob Ramsey and Douglas Luiz getting goals. An absolute masterclass by Villa. Straight up a masterclass. They destroyed Brighton at home. I watched this live, and I mean, the stats like kind of don't do Villa justice. To an extent, Brighton dominated possession, but Villa just every time was countering in the most effective of manners. And to get, 6 goals off of 9 shots on target, that's a testament. Villa looks really threatening. Brighton, if I'm not mistaken, this is their second loss in a row, I believe. Let's see. Head-to-head form guide. No, not second loss in a row. I apologize. But they did have the loss to West Ham, which felt like a bit of a step back to some extent. And if that's a step back, then what is this, So Brighton will have to figure out some things. Quick look at the league table. You'll see Villa leapfrog Brighton with this result. The goal difference definitely helped out a little bit there by this win. Definitely needed it for Aston Villa, but huge, huge result in the Europa League, European Conference League table kind of area. I feel like that both of these teams will be right there contending for Europa League or Conference League, or maybe even, if one of them strikes some really good form, maybe even Champions League potentially. Next is Arsenal versus Bournemouth. Arsenal, very easy win for them, 4-0. Bukayo Saka with a goal. Odegaard and Havertz converting from the penalty spot. Odegaard with an assist for Ben White's 93rd minute goal. And yeah, I mean, what do you have to say about one shot for Bournemouth? That's a pitiful display. I thought Bournemouth would be a lot better to start this season. I feel like to some extent their lineup isn't even like that awful. It's not the best, but it's like fairly average. Obviously, Arsenal is one of the best teams in the league, so things will be a little different. I didn't get the chance to watch this fixture live, but it was a very comfortable win by Arsenal. And as we could see, they are now in third on 17 points with 9 goal difference. And Bournemouth are now officially in the relegation zone because Everton lost to Luton at home. Luton Town, I believe that's their first win of the whole season, right? Like they don't have any sort of victories this season, I don't think. Yeah, they had losses. So losses and draws. But they won. Tom Lockyer with a goal, their captain Carlton Morris with a goal, then Dominic Calvert-Lewin getting a goal for Everton, but it wasn't enough. Luton got a victory, and I mean, credit to them. I'd love to see Luton stay up. It's going to be a difficult ask, but as a team that is, say, lacking the type of infrastructure or funds to be able to compete with some of these Premier League sides, it would truly be a fairy tale story. Now, as a Liverpool fan, it's always nice to see Everton lose. So, good game that. Next is Manchester United versus Crystal Palace, and this is where the whole weekend starts to get a little muddied. I wasn't really, following the 10 a.m. Fixtures, which would be the 3 p.m. kickoffs in the UK. So I did go back and see this penalty shout for Man United that wasn't given. That I think it was off Joel Ward, like bounced off his arm in the box. People thought it bounced off Rashford initially, but it was clearly a handball, and VAR did not intervene. VAR had a really bad weekend. To no one, you should know this by now, I think, even if you've, not seen any other videos but mine. I've already made 2 videos on the whole Liverpool Tottenham incident, which we'll get to, and just how VAR is kind of degrading the sport, but that was also a really bad one. United deserved at least a penalty there, but Crystal Palace apparently played really well. They executed a really smart game plan, sat back, good old Roy ball, but tough loss for United. Newcastle versus Burnley. Newcastle with a comfortable 2-0 win. Also, let's go back and quickly look at United and Crystal Palace in the table, because Crystal Palace has now surpassed Man United in the table standings. They're up to ninth, United in 10th. That's a rough one for United fans to have to deal with. But Newcastle versus Burnley, comfortable 2-0 win at home for Newcastle. And I mean, Newcastle's, starting to pick up some steam, go up towards the top of the pack again. And I mean, credit to them. They're, a solid side, and they had a really hard start to the season, but now they're starting to find some consistency, some form. I don't know if they have like too many injuries right now that they're dealing with. Looking at this, I would guess no. Besides, I think Harvey Barnes is injured, but this is a fairly strong starting 11, I'd say, for Newcastle. So minus like Dan Burn and maybe a couple other people in there. But, Burnley's down here, 6 games played, 1 point. They're about to go up against Luton. I mean, by the time you're seeing this, probably this will probably go up the day of. So, facing off against Luton, if they don't win that, Burnley, say Luton gets a draw or a win, Luton could go up to 16th, or, maybe even go up to. I mean, they can only go up to 16th realistically, because they're not gonna. Oh no, they could realistically go up to 15th potentially. I could see them maybe going up to 15th if they get the win. But even then, that would be a big ask for Luton. But if they were to get 2 wins, in this week, that'd be huge for them. They would just be in such a better place than they were to start the season. But Burnley really have to pick it up here. Speaking of teams that need to pick it up, Sheffield United, another loss coming off the back of that frankly humiliating 8-0 loss to Newcastle. West Ham tack on another 2. Jared Bowen, Thomas Suchek with the goals. Only 2 shots, that on target. That's not great. Sheffield is now dead last in the table, negative 14 goal difference after 7 games played. It's not ideal for Sheffield. And as for West Ham, they're starting to really look like an outfit that could do something interesting for their standards. They could maybe, they're in the Europa League this season. They could potentially, mount a charge for like one of those top like 8 places. I think this is probably their level, like 5th to 8th. But yeah, I mean, I really like the look of West Ham. They really invested that money from Declan Rice well, and credit to them. Next is probably the shock result of the weekend. Wolves beating Manchester City, an own goal from Ruben Diaz, and then a free kick from Julian Alvarez made it 1-1. But Hwang Hee-chan ended up scoring in the 66th minute thanks to an assist from Matheus Cunha. And I was just flabbergasted. As a Liverpool fan, seeing City drop points, this is something that you rarely see as any fan. And with Liverpool kind of starting to mount, some decent results over the last, several odd games or so, this was one of those moments where I was like, no way. If Liverpool wins, they're going to the top of the table. But for City, I mean, injuries, injuries and suspensions. Pep wasn't on the touchline. Rodri was, he had a red card. KDB's still out. Bernardo Silva's out. They had to, start with Kovacic, Doku, Alvarez, Nunez, Foden, and Haaland. Like, that's not, like, it's a decent side still. Very great side, actually. But it's a side with some clear errors and isn't, like, as impervious as City when they're really at their top best. So it's a fairly weekend City side, but credit to, Wolves. They played incredibly well. I watched, like, the second half and a little bit of the first half, like, just, like, right before they got into the stoppage time for the first half. So very great result for Wolves. You gotta love it. Now they're kind of climbing up to 7 points after 7 games. City still on top, but they're only a point ahead of Tottenham. Tottenham are in second because they beat Liverpool this weekend. I've made 2 videos on this whole fixture and just like all the drama around it. And just to kind of put it to rest for good, one last time, the way I feel about this is credit to Tottenham for taking advantage of, poor refereeing decisions. They, they should have probably, if like, let's pull up these stats. 8 shots on target, 24 shots in total. So only 30% of their shots were on target. And I know that, it's harder sometimes to play against, say, 10 men, but to play against 9 men, like, I get that, Liverpool was sitting deep and Liverpool needed to, but at the same time, Tottenham did not inspire me all that much. Post, Curtis red card to, especially from the Jota red card onward. They got lucky, I think, with the own goal, but that was kind of bound to happen eventually with the way that, the game was going and how much possession Spurs managed to retain. But I think Liverpool did a very good job, all things considered. The rulings in this fixture, probably some of the worst I've ever seen in any match or game of football, whether that be, in UEFA competitions, international competitions, the League Cup, domestic leagues. This is like up there. Like, this, with my own eyes, like, it felt just so blatantly like shoddy. I don't know. It was just potentially, one of the best fixtures of the season. And I think the fact that we're here talking about refereeing decisions just shows you the state of the game and how at this point, we're talking about that more than we're talking about, Son getting a goal. We're not talking about Gakpo's, shot that he twisted his knee on, which, could put him out for a couple weeks, actually will put him out for a couple weeks. And, Matip, even, like, I don't blame him for the own goal. I think Liverpool, honestly, they kind of looked the better side even with 9 men in a weird way. Obviously, they had no outlet to go forward, but you looked at how compact Liverpool were, how aggressive they still were with, 8 outfield players. I mean, I'm proud of, all of the players that performed for Liverpool. Some, the Curtis red card, to me, it's orange. I could see why it's given as a red, but it just felt needlessly aggressive for the first, like, card of the game. There wasn't like a yellow for anyone on either side. It just kind of felt like an escalation of something that didn't need to occur, really. And as for Jota, yeah, Jota's I can't really defend. The first foul, I do think Destiny Udogie just kind of trips on his feet, and so I don't think it should have been a foul or even a yellow card in that scenario. I'd have to look at it again. I've only seen it live and haven't gone back to review it, but he's gotten some really bad and, like, nasty and racist messages from people because of that. And I just got to say, that's just whack. It's stupid. And it's probably the worst part of the football community, just how blatantly, just evil and hateful people are. Keep your head up, Udogie. You had a hell of a game, man. Like, credit to Tottenham's players, because you can't really blame them for anything specifically. Like, Tottenham, if calls are going your way, you're going up against, in this case, a rival for a top 4 spot or just a general top 6 rival, and it's a big clash. Hey, man, you roll with the punches, but from the referee's perspective, yeah, it's just unforgivable and, quite frankly, disgusting. So, not much more to say about that fixture, but Nottingham Forest versus Brentford, 1-1. A red card in this one, too. Who got a second yellow here? Let's see. Musa Niakate got a second yellow. Dang. But, yeah, so Christian Norgard scored in the 58th minute with an assist by Matthias Jensen, and then Nicolas Dominguez scored in the 65th minute with an assist from Harry Toffolo. I will be honest, I didn't really even look at that fixture. By the way, Tottenham, as I mentioned earlier, second place with 17 points. Liverpool, fourth place, 16 points. Not a bad spot for Liverpool to be in whatsoever, all things considered. And Nottingham Forest and Brentford. Nottingham Forest in 12th, doing well, kind of catching up to Chelsea, even after Chelsea's win there. And as for Brentford are kind of having a whack season. But at the same time, you kind of understand it. Ivan Toney still suspended, but he's like, what? Like, I don't know. I don't want to say anything stupid, but, like, he's what? A top 5 striker in the league, right? Like, is that safe to say? If he's not top 5, he's like top 7, 8, so he's up there. As a forward, he is absolutely, like, he is the kind of linchpin almost and sort of main kind of outlet and focus of that Brentford team. So he needs to get back for them to really start to climb up the table, I think. But finally, the last fixture of this weekend match week. I know Luton and Burnley play tomorrow, but you know, it's Luton and Burnley. No offense to them, but it's a relegation scrap early on in the season. Obviously, this will have a lot of weight for both sides, but not like the most dazzling of affairs now, is it? But Fulham lost to Chelsea at home. Some interesting stuff here. 18th minute goal and a 19th minute goal. First, we saw a goal from Mikhailo Mudryk, his first ever Premier League goal. Congrats to good old Mickey Mudryk on that one. And then Broya got a goal. He's been out for a while, so that's a huge goal for him to get. Be a big boost for his confidence in Chelsea's as a whole. But it's not a perfect evening because for Chelsea, for some reason, they just can't catch a break. I don't know. You look at the lineup for Chelsea: Sanchez, Disasi, Cucurella, Silva, Colwell, Fernandez, Gallagher, Caicedo, Mudryk, Broya, and Palmer. Clearly, they have a lot of injuries still. Cuckoo's not there. Jackson was suspended. Malo Gusto was suspended. They got the win, which is obviously all that matters, but they will be concerned that, hey, in the 45th minute, Mikhailo Mudryk goes off at halftime, and, Maatsen comes in because Mudryk apparently picked up a knock. So that's not ideal. And then on top of that, you have this 96th minute clash between Willian and Moise Caicedo, which sees Moise Caicedo also get subbed off with injury. Just tough luck for Chelsea. Like, they'll be very pleased to get this win, but at what cost, their fans will be saying. Chelsea and United haven't had the best starts this season, but they're neck and neck. It's going to be interesting to see which team kind of continues to climb and which team kind of starts to sputter out a bit. I think between these two, though, one of the two will ascend a bit, and the other one's going to kind of middle out and probably finish someplace 8th, maybe 7th come end of the season. But yeah, those are all my kind of thoughts on all these fixtures. Oh, let me look at my fantasy team real quick. So my fantasy. Why am I not logged in? Hello? Okay, whatever. Can't log in my fantasy, but I got like 54 points, I think. It wasn't my best showing. It wasn't anyone's best showing. It was kind of a tough week for fantasy, but comment down below. Give me all your thoughts on these fixtures. Like the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Sideline Sedo. Peace.